This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everyone. So, good morning. Hope I am audible and also you're able to see my screen. Just I'm checking with you. Some of you can let me know that you are able to hear me.
Yes, Madhu, we are able to hear. Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning, Madhu.
So, good morning. So, okay, let's get started. Our second session on machine learning. So, the last session we tried to kind of, in simple terms, tried to clarify this very high level terminology that is bombarded against us, that is AI, machine learning, deep learning. Basically, we told AI is broad body of knowledge that attempts to give machines some kind of capability to think like humans and perform tasks. That's how a body of knowledge, broad body of knowledge, we tell all of that as artificial intelligence, and it is not really new. It has been there. Then within that body of knowledge, a subset of techniques, we refer to them as machine learning techniques. Basically, they apply very well-known statistical learning techniques that can be applied on large complex data sets, and using those machine learning algorithms will enable the machines to learn the data and understand patterns that might be hiding inside the data to make useful predictions, so that if they make accurate and useful predictions, we can leverage them in our automation workflows in very intelligent way. That is the body of knowledge. We call it as machine learning. And then deep learning is a little bit newer kind of topic. Again, it's a subset of machine learning techniques, but here the focus is to apply some computational models like neural networks that mimic the internal workings of brain to solve different class of problems like image recognition, computer vision, speech recognition, natural language processing that requires different and more complex computational models such as neural networks. So that's how we have defined AI, ML, and DL. And then also because now we wanted to really learn machine learning, we defined machine learning in a easy to understand manner. That's what we attempted last time. So I'll repeat for you. Machine learning, actually I told, it's the practice of teaching computers to learn patterns in the data so that we can make useful predictions and decisions. That's how we told. And we actually contrasted with the explicit programming model that we are all aware of. That's how we told. But then, as I told you in this course, for next 2-3 sessions, we will talk a little bit theoretically only, but our goal of theory is not to really bombard with you a lot of complex theory. It is all about the language that is spoken in this field, AI, ML, DL field. We want to clarify the terminology issues so that whenever we are speaking this language with your clients or within your project teams or while solving problems with other stakeholders, if the language of this field, if it is known and we are all comfortable, then it will be far more easier to learn these topics as we move forward. So today my goal is to talk about this lesson. We'll spend close to 1 hour now. I'll make it again as simple as possible for you. Our topic is machine learning terminology and learn in context. So I'll talk about what is this learning in context. So we will try to clarify a lot of terminology that comes to us in a very easy to understand way. And again, more terminology will come as we go progress and start doing projects. But for now, to start projects, whatever is needed, we are talking about it. Okay. So First, what is this learning in context and why that kind of way of learning terminology is important? Let me talk about it. So again, as usual, I want you to think about this situation. So as artificial intelligence becomes less of an ambiguous marketing buzzword and more of a precise technology that is getting reality. 4, 5, 6, 7 years back, it was more like a marketing buzzword. But if you right now look at a lot of teams, a lot of professionals, a lot of engineers are actually trying to solve uh, complex problems using this new way of applying computers to solve problems. In fact, just before the call, in fact, I'm very happy also that my classmate, we studied together engineering almost 30 plus years back. He also is participating in this course, and he was explaining me what he's trying to do in his company. So a lot of real work is happening. This AI is no longer a marketing buzz now. It is getting more and more a precise technology, and it is solving a lot of problems. So while that is happening, it is increasingly becoming a challenge to understand all of the AI terminology out there. So lot of, whenever we start reading blogs or some YouTube videos, we are kind of listening to a lot of uh, terminology, and to really understand the terminology in a very precise manner, we have to learn the terminology in a context. That's what really I'm making an attempt to do that. So if you look at, I'm not put all the terminology, but whenever we talk about this topic, people talk about something called unsupervised learning. Sometimes we keep hearing a term called regression, classification, natural language processing, artificial neural network, algorithms, cluster analysis, decision tree, deep learning, supervised learning, cognitive computing, and many more. In fact, in the last session itself, I have used a lot of these things myself. So, and there are hundreds of more such terminology people use. So what is the best way to understand a particular terminology of a particular field? So in my opinion, I have two points there. They are either true or false. You have to tell me whether it is true or false. So the first point I'm telling is that the only way to master machine learning without feeling overwhelmed is to learn it in context. What is this context? Context of doing some work or performing a task. If we know what task we are performing, and around that, if I try to understand the terminology, that is the best way to understand terminology of a field without being overwhelmed. You agree it or not? Yes or no?
Yeah, 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 it's true.
That is the best way, and in fact that is the way only we will learn terminology as we do the projects. The second point is telling you that you should start with and focus on individual algorithms and not pick the right machine learning task for the job. That is how we learn terminology. Will it help us or not help us? That only focus on individual algorithms, understand various terminology that comes in algorithms, and but not worry about how those are applied for doing some machine learning tasks that you are attempting to solve. Is that way to learn a terminology? Is it a good way or bad way? If it is bad way,
No,
Bad
bad
it is
way.
a bad way.
Bad way.
Yeah. So very good. Everyone is agreeing with me. That solves my problem. So we will learn this terminology right now for starting our projects. We will learn some terminology today using how different kind of tasks are performed using this new technology called machine learning. And around that, let us understand some terminology of that field. Okay, first, let us start with uh, two terms which often come. One is called, because when we are talking about machine learning, the real artifact that is creates a lot of value is the data, or sometimes we call it as data set. So from the data set point of view, we can classify the data set into two types of data set. One is called labeled data, another is unlabeled data. This terminology will come very many times as we keep talking. So what is really labeled data set? Like whenever we are dealing with machine learning, we get lot of data set using some tables. Like say I have some information with some column names on top, but there are columns and then there are rows. Rows typically we call it as the observations within the data, and these columns we always refer to as features. So an observation about some aspect is explained by its features. So usually this is how data comes in a Excel kind of format. Now this data, some kind of data we call it as labeled data, and some data we call it as unlabeled data. So what is labeled data? Labeled data are the data sets that have a target variable. Again, target variable is another new terminology, will come immediately after this. And the label represents the ground truth to use when you are building a model. So let us take an example of the data. Oh, sorry. So let's say you have a data like this. Actually, this is a very famous and popular data set, and that is called IRIS data set. Okay, just let me put this into this. Okay. So basically what this data tells is that there are various species of flowers, and we have, each flower has a set of features like the sepal length, sepal width, petal width, and based on the features, these four features of these dimensions of sepal and petal, experts who understand flowers, they can put them into the right kind of species. So that is the data that, let's say, we have. Then how do we here, whatever you are seeing here, this is your feature. Okay, all these columns are features, and all the rows we call it as observations. That is how we keep on talking about it. Now this is the information I have, and I want, and basically I'm calling this as a labeled information, because using this information I want to create a computer based model. Once the model is done, I want to give some new dimensions of another flower that I'm measuring, and I will ask the computer model, because I use this data and trained a model, and to this model I ask this new question: a sepal length of 4, sepal width of 3, petal length of 2, and petal width of 7. According to whatever you understood and understood the pattern, tell me what is this flower. Let's say the computer tells me it is setosa flower, and also expert tells us it is setosa. And if I give 100 of these things and 99 times, computer is also able to tell as good as human being. That is what really we are attempting in our model development. But here, why we are calling this as labeled data? Because I am actually making a prediction on the species. The species field, the column, we usually refer to it as target variable. This is the variable I'm trying to predict after I train my model. And other things, sepal length, sepal width, petal width, these are, we always call them as input features. Okay. So labeled data, when I have a data set, What is really labeled data? Labeled data has a target variable mentioned in the data itself. So here, this table has for known observations, I already has been given what is the species. Now I have to, the ground truth for each observation, that is the relationship between the input features and the target variable, has been informed to me prior to start building a model. So this kind of data, we call it as labeled data. Okay, so where, let me go back. So just clear it. I want to erase it. Just give me a minute. I'm first time using this. Okay, I'm unable to erase. I'll figure it out. But again, label data are the data sets that have a target variable. And what is that label really? The label represents the ground truth to use when building a model. Okay, so whenever you have that kind of data set, you will solve a particular kind of problems. We'll talk about it. And that is one way to train a computer to understand the data and then build a model and then solve some prediction problems for us. Okay, then at times we start working with unlabeled data. So basically, unlabeled data sets are actually the data sets that do not have a target variable. So I have a lot of observations, lot of input features, meaning lot of rows and lot of columns in the data. But to solve a particular problem, I cannot really consider any one of those columns as my target variable, and I don't have that ground truth available. They are just some rows of information. For example, if we go to this data set, let me actually,
Like if you exit this full screen and come back, it will go.
okay, let me do that. Discard. Okay, thank you. I'm trying the pen thing now. Okay, so anyway, we are talking about, thank you very much. So we are talking about unlabeled data. So basically, in the unlabeled data, they are the data sets that do not have a target variable, and that is what it does. Target variable is nothing but the ground truth that explains the relationship between some set of input features and the target variable. In an unlabeled data set, we don't have any target variable. Let's take this example. So here, the bottom table basically is a table of an e-commerce site. Their customers are placing orders. These are invoices. There are millions and billions of these invoices from various customers. And now this data I have. And I want to use this data and build a recommendation system. So I want an intelligent system which will actually groups these customers who are generating these invoices from the way who is actually selling more. Maybe if I want to do more marketing with a particular group of customers who are buying a lot of things from me, I will do much more personalized marketing. And those who are not buying not much, I'll do it in a different way. But if I want to do that kind of thing, intelligent way of marketing, then this is the data I have, and my goal is to actually group the various customers into 3 or 4 different groups. High net worth groups or high spending groups, medium, low, very low. I want to create this whatever 1,000 or 2,000 customers who have given some 1 million or 2 million invoices. From that data, I want to create such an intelligent grouping to do effective marketing. That is my goal. Then if you look at this data, I cannot take any column as a ground truth for me to do that activity. Okay, so whenever I come across this kind of data, I call it as unlabeled data. So we are always either machine learning or deep learning. We always work with data because it's a data driven technology. So we have to categorize this data as labeled data or unlabeled data. So labeled data has a target variable present using which we do prediction on the target variable. So in a unlabeled data, I have a set of features, but I don't have any one feature that I can use it to perform my task as a ground truth. Then I am calling it as unlabeled data. So I want to have a lot of clarity in your minds about this because we'll keep using it and you might have heard a lot of times. So basically, again, I'm telling labeled data is data set that has a target variable, and that label, what we are calling, it represents ground truth to building a model. Unlabeled data are data sets that do not have a target variable, and because there is no label, there is no ground truth to use. So the difference between labeled and unlabeled data determines the categories of machine learning tasks that are possible for the job. Based on what data we have, we can categorize the machine learning tasks. So the next important terminology that comes is actually the supervised learning and unsupervised learning. So basically, if you are dealing with a labeled data, meaning you are able to tell computer or train computer using some labels and ground truths, so you are able to supervise, you are able to teach the machine like a lecturer or a teacher does, because you are showing every observation with its relationship using a ground truth. So that is why we call those learning tasks as supervised learning tasks. And when you don't have that ground truth to supervise a machine, but still you want the machine to learn on its own some patterns and make useful groupings of the data, then we will call that kind of learning task as unsupervised learning task. We'll come to that. So these are the examples. Hope you have clarity on labeled and unlabeled data. It is not again rocket science, but I just want to clarify this because a lot of first time learners also are there in this audience. So I want to be good for them as well. Okay, so again, I already used this term input features. So basically input features are the variables that your machine learning algorithm can learn from. Based on the problem domain to problem domain, these input features will be different. And so always the machine learning algorithms require some input features so that they can learn from it. Okay, so algorithms, all ML algorithms, they use input features to build models. Using input features, we train the computer using our machine learning algorithms. And input features are required for both supervised and unsupervised learning. In supervised learning, along with input feature, we also show the computer a particular label or a ground truth for each observation. In unsupervised learning, we don't have that information, but still we let the computer learn on its own way. Okay, so input features through which actually we learn or teach computers to build models. Okay, a lot of times input features in other classes and other books, people use a lot of terminology. Some people call it as explanatory variable, some people call it as independent variable, sometimes some people call it as regressor, and sometimes controlled variable, then driving factors, a lot of variety ways people refer to it. But in our class, we will only use this term called input feature. Okay, so if you look at our table, iris dataset, what are the input features in this? All the features that describe a flower, all these sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, these are the features of describing a flower. Those are all input features. So species, because we are here predicting which species does this particular dimensions belong to, that is what is actually basically target variable. So, okay, so target variable is the output variable of a machine learning model, or that is what we use it, and then that is what will predict for a new unseen data. Okay, so during training, it also represents the ground truth for each observation. So sometimes we use this ground truth. A target variable is required for supervised learning, and the target variable that we are predicting can either be a numeric value or it can be a categorical description. For example, in our iris, if our target variable is species is not a number, species is a description. Any description oriented things, we call them as categorical features. So I will keep on using that word again. So if it is represented by a number, like petal length is represented by some number, so then that is a numeric, continuously changing numeric. So again, there is a difference between continuously changing numeric and discrete numerics and categorical. So let us they can be the target variable can be in some class of problems, it is numerical, continuously varying numeric number, or sometimes it is a categorical, a description. So target variables are also called in some literature outcome variable, dependent variable, predicted variable, response variable, class. If you are solving a classification problem, sometimes people refer to it as a class, and some people use it as label. But in our course, we will use target variable. So here, let us look at it. Same, the iris data set. We know the input features, but what is the target variable? Because I want to use this table to learn and predict based on a new flower features. I want to predict the species of the flower. So that is my target variable. What is the type of this target variable? This is a description. Setosa, virginica, versicolor, one of these three descriptions, I'm using it as my target variable. So that we call it as categorical kind of target variable. But let's say our goal, we have a different kind of data set. I want to help Magic Bricks. Magic Bricks has a lot of data in Hyderabad about some properties that have been transacted last 10 years, and the features of the properties and at what price they have been sold, so that any new person will come and takes help from Magic Bricks. It will tell, okay, tell me your property. I give all the features of my property, the address, the plot size, the square feet, number of bedrooms, whatever. I give some 100 features, and then he feeds into a model, and then that model will tell, hey, this transaction price maybe at 1 crore you can sell it. So that is for that purpose we are building a model, let's say. Then we are using some table or data set like this, and here my all these transaction here, bed, bath, SFT, plot size, all these are my input features, and I want to use this data to predict transaction price of a new property that I will ask a question. And this is basically a labeled data, and so we can do supervised learning task, and but the target variable nature is numeric. Okay, so distinguish this. Based on that, the machine learning task, the terminology we use typically changes. Either if it is a numeric target variable and we are building a prediction model, typically we call that class of problems as regression problems. And if this is this kind of problem, target variable is categorical, it's a supervised learning task, but because my target variable is categorical in nature, and actually it has three classes, sometimes I call this as multi-class classification problem that I am doing. So we'll come to that. Okay, so what we have done so far, we defined labeled data, unlabeled data, and we talked about input features and target variable. We'll keep on talking a lot as we do our projects. So I want you to be clear with this terminology. I know it is not rocket science, but I am making it very clear, even if you are first time learners and first time you are kind of listening to this kind of things. So that's why I'm being a little bit more elaborate. Don't worry. Okay, now a little bit of your turn now. Knowledge check. You tell me, if you are training the machine to predict how long it takes to drive home. So you want to build a prediction machine for yourself. How long it takes to drive home, and you are using some table which has some features. Let's say which one of this is a target variable. Dependent variable is target variable. So you have feature one column weather, time of the day, holiday, commute time. These are the 4 features I have. To solve this problem, which one you think is a target variable? Holiday, commute time, weather? Okay, so it's a very easy thing.
Commute
So,
time.
Commute time is that we are trying to predict. And if I have 100 records of various weather conditions, holiday situations, time of the day, and a particular city, I have some information, and commute time is already available and we are supervising it using that label, then I can predict a particular day what will be my commute time. So it's a not so great thing, but just to understand. Okay, you tell me now this. Here is a data set for predicting employee turnover. Which one is the target variable? Attrition we want to predict. Basically, this is a HR information. So basically, I have, let's say, a 10,000 records or observations of each employee who is currently working in the organization and also who has left the organization sometime. But I have information. Okay, and using this information, I want to build a model which will predict if I give a new employee with all these features, like what department that employee belongs to, what is the score in the last appraisal, how many projects he or she was involved, what is the salary level, higher, lower, medium, then whether recently promoted or not, and what is the tenure in the company. And then I want to ask my model whether this employee will stay or quit. If I know that employee quits, if that employee quits, if the model predicts, then I can, as a HR manager, I can go and do some proactive activity. That's why I want to use the model. So in that kind of table, which of these columns can I consider as target variable?
Tenure.
Is it tenure? I want to predict whether the employee will stay or will quit. That is, so I want to really predict that. Then tenure is describes the feature of that employee. So it is status. Yes, you are right. The target variable is status for this problem. Okay, good. So what is the nature of this target variable?
Regression.
No, nature of the target variable. It is a categorical. It is telling left or employed, and it has only 2 categories. That is binary, one of 2, left or employed. I can represent it as 1 as left, 0 as employed, but 0 and 1 are numbers, but they are discrete numbers, but they are categorical in nature. So clear? Okay, I'll ask more questions. So here is a data set already you have been seeing now for predicting which species does a flower belong to. This is the famous iris data set. So I want to use this data set and want to predict the species based on the dimensions of a flower like an expert. Okay, what is my target variable?
Species.
What is the nature of my target variable?
Categorical.
It is categorical, but I have more than 2. It's not binary. It is actually one of 3 multi-category discrete value, because it's a description. We are calling it as categorical target variable. Okay, keep that in mind. We'll build on top of this about regression, classification, and clustering soon. Okay, and I have this data set already. I've shown it to you. I want to predict what price a particular property will go based on training a model. So which is my target variable? It is
Tax.
transaction price. And what is the nature of this target variable? It is a continuous numeric value. It can be 45 lakhs, it can be 45 lakh 50,000, it can be 2 crore 75 lakhs, or 75 lakh 1 rupee. It's a continuous value. Okay, so keep that in mind. So sometimes target variables are categorical in nature, sometimes the target variables are categorical in nature and continuous numeric in nature. Based on that, the kind of task machine learning task will do, we'll refer to it with using a different name, because it's a different task, a different kind of algorithms have to be used, and differently algorithms will have to be used. That is why learning in context of what work we will be doing, we are learning terminology. So here I have this invoices details of an online e-commerce site. So, and my goal is that I want to categorize my customers based on who is buying mostly from us, more worth sales they are doing. That kind of categorization I want to do, and do a very targeted marketing. I want to group customers into 4 groups using this invoice data. So any one
Someone
column when I take, so
has
I
unmuted the microphone.
please unmute if you are not speaking. Okay, okay. So here I have a lot of millions of records of invoices of an e-commerce site. Then I want to use this invoice data and create a cluster of customers to do a very targeted marketing. So any one field cannot be my target variable. I cannot supervise that. I have to, in fact, revamp this whole data and solve this puzzle in a total different way, because there is no ground truth available for each observation, a relationship between the input feature and a target variable. So we have no target variable here. So this class of problems, because this is basically an unlabeled data, so that is why we have to approach machine learning task in a little different way. That's what we call it as unsupervised learning. Okay, so what is the nature of this target variable? Actually, there is no target variable. We'll come to that. So we talked about labeled data, we talked about unlabeled data, we talked about input features, we have talked about target variable, and we talked about nature of the target variable, and based on that, again, whether labeled data is there for you to solve a problem, we classify that learning task as supervised learning task. When you don't have labels for a data and we call it as unlabeled data, still we want computer to learn on its own, we are calling it as unsupervised learning tasks. Okay, so that is what broadly machine learning tasks can become categorized into 2, actually 3. The third one is called reinforced learning. So we are not talking about it, we are only talking about 2. We will not go into that. Let's not make it very complex at this moment. So we are keeping in a foundational level right now. So under machine learning, there are different tasks. A task is a specific object for your machine learning algorithms. Based on this, you know which machine learning algorithm can be used to solve a problem. The 2 most common categories of tasks are supervised learning tasks and unsupervised learning tasks. So supervised learning tasks, they include tasks for labeled data, wherever the ground truths are available for each observation. So there is input feature explained and also a target variable using which I am supervising the learning process for my machine. Then I'm calling it as supervised learning. And also it is often used as an advanced form of predictive modeling. So whatever the target variable for new unseen data, once computer learns the underlying pattern that exists in the relationship in the data, then we'll be able to ask questions to the model, and model will start replying with right answers. If it gives right answers, then that is great. The second one is unsupervised learning. It includes tasks for unlabeled data, like what we have seen last, the invoice data. We cannot supervise a machine to learn from the features and a ground truth of relationship between the features. We cannot do that. That's why we are calling it as unsupervised. And it is used either as a form of automated data analysis. So without supervising, computer itself will try to understand the pattern and puts various data, whatever our problem, based on that, it makes the data and puts into some groups. And then all these popular recommendation engines by all e-commerce systems, the underlying model they use is actually unsupervised learning models. Okay, and that's what we call automated data analysis. Supervised learning, sometimes we call it predictive modeling also. So keep that in mind, supervised learning and unsupervised learning. So again, supervised learning tasks can be categorized into two. These are also based on algorithms, based on projects. We call it as regression or classification. So basically, for supervised learning, each data point must be labeled with a correct answer or a ground truth, the label or the target variable. Only then can you build a predictive model, because you must tell the algorithm what is the correct answer at the time of training for at least some known information. Then only it will be able to understand and then give its output for an unknown, new, unseen data. Okay, so some problems of supervised learning, we call it as regression problems, and some problems we call it as classification problems. So what problems we call regression? It is a supervised learning task for modeling continuous target variable. If your target variable is specified as a continuous numeric value, like your transaction price of a property, then if you are building a predictive model using a supervised learning task, and those tasks are told as regression tasks, and so supervised learning or classification is also supervised learning. But if your target variable is specified in categorical way, then you are predicting the category of species or employee left or staying, those kind of target variables. When you are solving and building a predictive model, then we are calling it as we are performing a classification task. So when we are performing classification task, we have to review and understand and apply classification algorithms. There are plenty of them. When you are solving a regression problem, then you have to use regression algorithms, and there are plenty of them, and we need to know how to apply them. But both regression and classification, whenever we are using that word, they are basically fundamentally they're supervised learning tasks. And regression, your mind immediately should that, oh, okay, I'm predicting some continuous numeric value. That's why I'm calling. Whether it is machine learning or deep learning, any problem, it's basically a regression problem you are solving. Similarly, if you are building a predictive model to predict a category, then immediately you should think that I'm solving a classification problem, and then that has its own issues of applying algorithms, evaluating models, using metrics. We'll come to all of that. But right now, in your minds, have clarity on this. Now, the third one, these are both regression and classification. They are supervised learning tasks. Means I have labeled data. Means I have input feature and a ground truth for every input feature at the time of training. So those things is clear in my mind. Now the other one is I don't have ground truth. I don't have a particular column can be categorized as a ground truth, and the problem I'm solving, this data doesn't give any hint at all. I have to totally revamp this data and on my own, or we have to let the computer or give it some tools, but let it learn on its own. And that kind of tasks we call generally as unsupervised learning task. And the most important unsupervised learning task is called clustering or cluster analysis. Like take this data and automated data analysis you perform and group. If I want the data customers into 5 groups, it will make 5 groups. I want 3 groups. I want 10 groups, but I have to use those algorithms and set them to do such things and do it. We'll do a very solid project of clustering analysis as our 4th project. So clustering is unsupervised learning task for finding groups within your data. When you have unlabeled data, you don't have a target variable that you can try to predict. Instead, you will allow algorithms to directly learn structure from the data. And these are the building blocks for building your recommendation engines. Like anybody who talks about AI talks about Netflix's recommendation engine, the case study you should study. It's not as easy that, but fundamental thing is that there is a cluster analysis that is performed using some set of data that they're collecting. So again, we talked about supervised, unsupervised, but there are many learning tasks. People talk, sometimes they're subset of these broad tasks: auto encoding, dimensionality reduction, feature extraction, anomaly detection, computer vision. Many such tasks are there. But big three most common tasks. Again, dimensionality reduction is a very important activity you have to do as a cluster analysis using many techniques. One of the techniques is called PCA, a very mathematics oriented statistical technique called principal component analysis. We learn that actually when we talk about clustering. But the big three most common tasks are regression, classification, and clustering. And the left side things use within this broad big three ones. So we learn all of them also as this big three. So hope you are clear up to now. Now let us continue with our questions. So anyway, this table we have seen, we know the target variable. Also, we know it is a binary value. So now you tell me what machine learning task can be performed for this. What machine learning task possible for this job? Is it a supervised learning or unsupervised learning?
Supervised.
Supervised learning.
Supervised
It
learning.
is supervised learning, and it is a classification problem or a regression problem.
Classification problem.
It is a classification problem. And it is a binary class classification problem or a multi-class classification problem.
Binary class.
Binary
class.
Yeah. So it is a supervised learning task we have to perform to solve this puzzle. And what we have to really do is that a binary classification task we have to perform. Okay, for this problem. Let me go to the next one. So here already we have seen this data set. My question is, what machine learning task possible for the job? Is it supervised or unsupervised?
Supervised.
It is supervised, no question about it. Then is it a classification or a regression?
Classification.
Classification.
So it is a binary classification or multi-class classification? I have multi-class classification task. Okay. Now let me show this again. We have seen all properties of Hyderabad, very high priced actually. I only created this. Okay. So what machine learning task possible? Is it a supervised or unsupervised?
Supervised.
It is a supervised learning task, and because I'm predicting my target variable is a continuous numeric in nature, I have to perform a regression task. Okay. So the last one, I don't have a target variable. So what kind of machine learning task I can do?
Unsupervised learning with
We have to do unsupervised learning, and we have to do clustering tasks. So basically, by now in your mind, you should be clear with labeled data, unlabeled data, input features, target variable, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, again in supervised learning, regression, binary class classification, multi-class classification, unsupervised clustering analysis. These are all the things we have clarified the terminology because we'll keep using them. Okay. So now knowledge check. Okay. So basically unsupervised will not have a ground truth. So typically to solve problems more accurately, we expect that we have a lot of observations available. Then only computer can make some useful clusters. If you give very fewer number of observations, it will not be so accurate. I just wanted to tell that information because the next question you will answer immediately. But this question you tell me, with what type of learning will you need to have access to a lot of data? Anyway, this is what
unsupervised.
Supervised learning.
Okay, I told you. So unsupervised learning, because there is no ground truth you are using, that you are not supervising a learning process for a computer. So better actually we provide lot of information, then that automated data analysis it can perform more accurately. Okay, anyway, next question. Which one of the following do you use when you look for predicting trends, continuous numeric values, instead of trying to classify data into different groups? Which one will you use?
Regression.
Regression.
Okay,
Regression.
everyone clear? Yeah, it is not rocket science, but I want to use the repetition mantra so that everything is clear in your minds. Okay, now you have to tell some statements are true, some statements are false. Okay, before starting an ML project, it is not necessary to understand the problem you are solving. Is it true or false?
False.
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 The project actually you have to understand the problem, so it is right for even machine learning project. Data quality is not very important to deliver a good ML solution.
True.
Again,
Correct. True.
True.
what you are saying is that data quality is not very important. You give any data, it will solve the problem. So is it true?
False.
No, it is
False.
not true. Anyway, actually, better data beats a very smart algorithm. That is the rule of machine learning. Okay, you have ordinary algorithms, not very sophisticated algorithms, but if you input a very high quality data, then you will build a much better model. Now there is a lot of debate going on nowadays, and a lot of criticism also for this one college in London that's called Imperial College London. So basically UK, to attack this COVID problem, they were going in a particular direction for the first 15-21 days. Then suddenly an unpeer reviewed one model and a report around that model came from a very popular college, good college actually, that is Imperial College of London, which actually gave a very pessimistic view of number of deaths that can happen in UK. It talked about some 2 million. 2 million is 20 lakh people dying in UK. But how they came with that number? They used a particular model to predict the number of deaths by some so and so date. Basically, some ML technique they've used. Now, how come they come to that conclusion? Maybe they have used some data. There are a lot of unclarified assumptions in the data, and after all, it's maths. The maths ran and predicted something, and then when they gave it to the politicians got really worried, and immediately they imposed a very draconian lockdown. Okay, now there is a lot of criticism because a week later Imperial College of London actually revised their data. They told the deaths can be around 30,000 to 40,000. So there is a huge difference between 2 million people in UK dying, small country, 20 lakh people dying in a matter of 3-4 months, to 20 to 40,000 people dying is a huge difference. So how could that problem have occurred? Again, we don't know. They are very smart people. I'm not standing here, I cannot criticize. But what point I'm trying to really tell you is that if you have very good quality data and you input by using very ordinary algorithms, you can build models with high degree of predictive accuracy. So good data beats a fancy algorithm at any time, and that is the rule of machine learning. Anyway, we didn't talk, that is why some of you are telling like that, but when we talk you will get the clarity. Now what is really this data quality? Always we have some data sets, we call them data sets from the real world. Okay, they are collected in with a lot of inaccuracy, with a lot of problems will be there. But by the time we input it to an algorithm and build a model, we have to work on the data for a long time to improve the data. In fact, a typical machine learning project, whenever we are doing, if you are spending 100 days of effort, 80 days of effort will go into data cleaning, understanding data, exploratory analysis of data, then another task, very important task we'll talk when we do projects, something called feature engineering, and then prepare the data to be fed into a model. Now, the 20% of time will take, okay, building a model pipeline, making it to learn, do all that little bit of building logic, all that is only 20% activity. 80% activity happens around data cleaning and preparation of the data. So huge effort goes. That's why machine learning, data science we use in a typical model building team. A lot of people who will play a role of data science, a lot of people will play a role of ML engineers. Then anyway, project management value of that cannot be undermined. The business people, the domain knowledge, if you want to really solve a problem of pandemic, then epidemiology experts, healthcare experts, a lot of people are needed to provide domain knowledge to understand the data. So anyway, I'm going, so basically this is a false statement. What I'm telling is that data quality is very important to deliver a good ML solution. So the third point.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go on.
Is there a way to measure data quality?
Actually, I couldn't get you. Will you please repeat?
Yes, sir. How do we measure data quality? Quality of data, how do we measure it?
Let me tell what I understood you are telling. How do we improve quality of data? That's what you're telling?
No, he is asking
No, how do we measure
How
it?
do you measure the data quality?
One at a time, please. Tell me, whoever talked last, I'm able to hear very well. Please repeat.
Like, actually, he's saying like how to measure the data quality based on the data set which you are getting from the business.
Okay, how to measure data quality? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So, again, data quality per se we cannot measure. Let's say there is a raw data that came from a customer, or we scraped it through web or APIs, whatever, we brought the data. That will not be the right kind of data to solve the problem that we are solving. So that is always true. Now, you made a lot of effort to clean the data. You applied a lot of concept of feature engineering. We'll talk about that. Is a very important engineering step in building good models. Feature engineering you have done. Again, that requires a lot of domain knowledge. Then you will think it's a good data based on collective wisdom of people. Now you actually build a model, and then you have to evaluate whether the model is good or bad. We have some empirical metrics. Okay, for every class of problem, regression has some evaluation metrics, classification has some evaluation metrics. So you test them using some testing data, and you measure those accuracies. Let's say your target accuracy, you can set it up using some metric. Let's say, again, I'm using some terminology, don't get confused. Something called R squared for regression. That's called coefficient of determination, statistical term. So I told that it should be greater than 60. Now you have applied your data and built a model and tested that model within unseen new data, testing data, and you measured that R squared, and you found that R squared is actually not 60%. Okay, it is 30%. So you have to now question your data. Maybe you have to do much better feature engineering. And other words, what I'm trying to say to answer your question, it's a trial and error process of doing things, measuring model accuracies, and going back to data and doing further improvement of data. That's how you will know the quality of the data. Hope I was able to answer your question, but otherwise also we will wait till we do projects, then you will get a lot of clarity. Okay.
So you mean to say that based on the data quality, we'll get different ML models?
No, not different ML models. Because of data quality, different accuracies will be achieved. Some models will be more accurate, some models will be less accurate in their prediction capability.
Hello.
Hello.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so let me move on to the third point. Target variable represents the ground truth and is required for supervised learning. True or false?
True.
Establishing a quantifiable goal helps you know when your model is good enough. Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
like I
Yes.
told right now,
True.
if I am doing a regression problem and if I establish that, I will say my model is good if my R squared is so much. Or if you are doing a classification model to tell that if my whatever AUC, ROC score is greater than this, then I will say my model is good. So establishing the quantifiable goal is always good to check your model quality. Okay, so some more questions are there. We'll quickly go through. We are already at 10, maybe 10 more minutes. So the data that contains the correct answer or the ground truth, and the learning algorithm uses it to find the patterns that map the input data to the target. Okay, what is the data? Is it unseen data or training data, model data, or learning data? What do we call that? The data that contains
Learning data.
correct answer. Actually, in machine learning, we call it as training data. We always training data, and to
Testing
test
data.
the model, we use testing data. We'll come to all of that. But, all the data using which we are making the computer learn, that data is called training data. Okay. Fill in this blank. You can use the ML model to get predictions on dash for which you do not know the target. You can use the ML model.
Unseen data.
New or unseen data. Again, this term also will keep on coming. So we using training data will teach computer. Using new unseen data, we get the answer or a prediction. Okay, and to evaluate a model, we use some data to test it. That's called testing data, test data. Okay, but the answer here is new. New unseen data. Okay. The next one is the process through which you train your ML model with training data. That is the first word. The second word is the artifact that is created by the training process. What are those two words? The first one is the process through which you train your model. Okay.
Training data and machine
Actually,
learning
training
model.
data and ML model. B.
Yeah. Actually, not training data. The process through which you train your model is called model training.
Okay.
This word also will keep on doing model training process. So that is a process. As an output of that process, we'll get ML model. So the C is the right answer. Okay. Then
Model C.
you pull the right term to the right description. Okay, I will read it for you. An output variable of an ML model, and during training, it represents the ground truth for each observation. What is it called? An output variable of an ML model, and during training, it represents the ground truth for each observation. So out of this,
Target variable.
Target variable.
is target variable. You are right. Okay. The second one is data set that contains meaningful tag or label that is informative or desirable to know and can be treated as ground truth. What is it called? The data set. Labeled data. Okay, great. The variables that your machine learning algorithms can learn from and are also called independent variables. Okay, what is it called?
Input features.
Features. Okay, the data set such as photos, audio recordings, videos, tweets, x-rays, which have no explanation and just contains the data and nothing else. That kind of data set. So no labels, no explanations, just a series of photos or something like that. What is this data? It is
Unlabeled data.
unlabeled data. Okay, so now you are clear in this thing. So some more questions. Okay, fill in the blanks. Okay, dash includes tasks for labeled data. It is often used as an advanced form of dash. So if it is labeled data,
Supervised learning.
supervised learning includes tasks for labeled data, and it is often used as an
Used
advanced
in,
form of predictive.
Predictive modeling.
Okay. Second one is dash includes tasks for unlabeled data. It is often used as an advanced form of dash. So
Unsupervised
Supervised
Supervised
learning,
learning.
Automated data.
automated data analysis.
data analysis.
yeah. Unsupervised learning is where you only have input data and no corresponding dash.
Target value.
Okay, good, great. I think one more question is there. Okay. So anyway, I follow this principle of repetition so that you get a lot of clarity with this terminology. Okay, I hope this is the last question. So here are examples of some problems we want to solve. You have to tell what task that you will perform to solve this problem. So the first problem is from past purchase data at the transaction level, we want to group the customers based on aggregate sales, specific items purchased. I want to use
Clustering.
this purchase. So it is
String.
clustering. Correct. The second one is the product. I will give a set of data and my machine has to predict whether it's a product or is a product a book, movie or clothing, or is the movie romantic comedy, documentary or thriller. I
Multi-class
want to
classification.
predict
Multi-class.
it is classification.
Multi-class.
Great.
This
The third one is this mail spam or not spam? Will the
Binary-
customer
binary
classification? Binary classification. Then the last one, for this product, how many units will sell? What price this house will sell for? What task you have to perform? Okay. So I hope the terminology is clear in your mind. Anyway, we are at 10 minutes past 10, close to that. So if you have any questions, please ask. Anybody has any questions? Okay. So what I will do again is that I will
Madhu, I have a
stop the
question like
recording.
how to access
Please.
this material, Madhu, the one you shared.
Actually, what I'm doing every day, I don't know, yesterday I told people, but every day I am recording this video on the GTM session and putting on a YouTube folder and giving the link to all the people. If you want to get that, all of you will have to write an email to me because my daughter is doing all that work for me. So you have to write an email to get that on my Gmail. Do you have my Gmail ID?
Please share that, Madhu. Please share the
Yeah.
email ID.
Let me go to my chat window there, and I am right now typing it. Madhu, MURTYRONANKI. Okay, MADHUMURTYRONANKI. I just did it. Please, you copy it, and then anybody who has not written to me on the Gmail, please write it. I will put it in one single distribution list, and every day's recording I'll be forwarding it to you. Okay.
Thanks, Madhu. Thanks, Madhu.
Okay. So then we'll stop now.
Thank you, Madhu.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.